Today's show of the first time storytelling broadcast. My guest is Brie Burgett. Brie is an adventure seeker. She's a globe trotter and a captain in the Marine Corps. She's been to 108 countries on 6 continents so far because she's not done. She's constantly trying new things and pushing her limits. And she's here to share the story of the first time she tackled her biggest mountain so far, Mount Kilimanjaro. Welcome, Brie.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I've really enjoyed
Yeah.
the show and your podcast so far of talking about everyone's new firsts and experiencing them with them. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it was tough to to get Brie to decide which one she's going to talk about because she's much like me. She loves adventures, and unfortunately, I did not get to join her on the trip to uh, climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Work was just it was drowning me at the time and I hated it. And I got to hear bits and pieces of the story, but I never got to hear the full story. So I'm very excited you're here on the show to share it. Now let's back up a little bit and start with when did you first get into hiking?
So, Marine Corps, obviously, you do a lot of hiking. You're going out and going on the rocks and the trails, and I think that kind of ruined it for a little while for me. The first mountain that I think I really climbed was when I was stationed in Okinawa, of going up and doing Mount Fuji that everyone recommended. You have to go try this mountain on one of
Do
your
you,
weekends.
do you
I
see
see
my
that in the
stick?
background, the stick that you get the stamps on it. So I went and hiked Mount Fuji, and yeah, you climb up the mountain. It's not difficult, but it's exciting. You get the stamps on your wooden stick, and then you get to go up and see sunrise over Japan from the top of the mountain. And so I think that was the first kind of real mountain that I climbed.
That's
And
crazy.
then
That was my first too. So
it's a good one. Anyone that's in Japan or in that area of the world, I mean, it's a day, a little bit more than a day climb, well, a couple hours up, and you stay in one of the little huts. So that was a very fun experience. And then when I started working in Africa for Marine Corps work, I always wanted to get over and do Kilimanjaro. And finally, I was able to build it into a schedule to be able to go and take a few days and climb Kilimanjaro. So that was the first one that I've done that's actually of decent altitude. And it thankfully went a little bit easier. I was nervous. I didn't really do any extra training or anything for it. But it went really easy. It's just a big walk up. You just keep going up the mountain. Summit morning was a little bit more challenging than I thought it would be, but it
now,
was.
how did you? So obviously, because you're traveling in Africa, get on your radar. But how did you plan your trip? Did you do it by yourself? Did you find a group?
So I didn't have any friends that went with me. However, I looked online, read a lot of reviews. So I do a lot of these trips all over the place, not necessarily just climbing, but all different types of trips. So read a lot of reviews and went into the safety, how much it cost, how long of a trip it was, just because with limited vacation days, you want to maximize how much you're able to fit into those few days. So I found a company, Kilimanjaro on Foot, I think was the name of it, and booked through them. So they had a group that was supposed to go up the mountain together. And I say supposed to because I arrived there and the rest of the 10 people that were supposed to be my climbing group had gotten delayed in Nairobi en route to come up. So they were supposed to be delayed by a day or two. And they're like, oh, just go ahead and start climbing. So I ended up climbing solo, even though I was supposed to be in a group. And so just me and my guide and a few of us were going up. So we met, there was other groups that were climbing the mountain at the same time. So I was able to meet a few other people on the mountain, but it was
Oh,
just, yeah, me and
wow.
Joseph,
Okay.
my guide.
Yeah, because it's not like waiting for the group was an option. So at least they still gave you the guide. Did you have to bring all your equipment? Did they provide you any equipment?
So they provided some of it. They gave a packing list ahead of time. And I compared it again in the planning process of what other groups kind of recommended and packed that. So then I went through afterwards and kind of lined out, here's the things that I thought were really valuable to actually bring on it. Some of the other things that they brought, you didn't need multiple tennis shoes or some other things, basic stuff like that. So, but they did provide the tent and the food and water for climbing up. So that goes back into the local economy. And honestly, the prices were a little bit less than I thought. And it was supposed to be, I think, a 6-day climb. And we did it in about 4.5 because they climbed the mountain all of the time and it was super easy for them. And we'd get to stopping point and they're like, all right, how do you feel? Do you want to keep going? I was like, yeah, let's keep pushing. So we did it 3 days up and then summited on the fourth morning. The fifth morning came, back down.
Wow, that's a big benefit of doing by yourself. You don't have to wait after a group. So that's actually, that's the way I would like to do it. That's pretty ideal. Although right now I would be the slow person. So I need to get back into shape where it would be a breeze. But what did you imagine? So based on all your research, what did you imagine it was going to be like versus the reality of it?
I thought it was going to be a much more difficult climb. So I thought it was going to be much steeper, longer hours on the trail every day. But honestly, it surprised me. It's just mostly a walk uphill. I was surprised at how slow of a pace we went. So the whole time they're teaching little Swahili words while you're climbing and they're like, pole pole, slow down, slowly, slowly. And we would just keep a very slow and steady pace up the mountain. And obviously you want to listen to the guides. They're the pros at this and they know what they're talking about. And following their advice is the best chance for summiting. So we walked very slowly, kept the pace. But I was surprised that it was, you go hiking with a group of friends and people who are very fit and they want to keep a nice strong pace going up any hills. And there it was very different, that it was getting acclimatized. We're doing this for a reason. So it really wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be. I will say summit morning though, we got up at like midnight. You could hear the wind whistling outside of the tent and it was snowing and you climb out and all we could see looking up are just these tiny little dots of light, like going up, stringing their way up the top of the summit. And it was so frustrating to see that. But we started slowly, turned our water bottles upside down. So as the water would freeze, we could still drink the water that was unfrozen at the bottom of it. Passed almost all the groups on the way up. I think one small group of like 3 people were up on top of the mountain when we got there, but the slowly worked. We just kept walking and a couple hours of doing that in the dark of one foot in front of the other. You just keep doing it and you make it.
Oh man. So what are the views like as you're going up?
So they have a couple of different routes that you can take going up the mountain. I took the Mashame route, which has the most varied terrain as you go up, but you go from rainforest. And again, my guide was there explaining everything as we're walking and chatting as we go up the mountain. But it changes drastically. And by the time you get to the top, it's similar to Fuji, where it's just kind of barren terrain, just mostly rocks around you. And then the peak of it, I went in December, which is one of their better, the end of the good climbing period, and snowing up at the top, like the whole morning climb up to the summit was snowing. But they usually time it so you try and hit there as the sun's cresting in the horizon and you just see all of everything spread out down below. So it was pretty amazing views from the top, and thankfully we got lucky with good weather there. So
that's amazing. Yeah. So as you're going up, so when you're staying and spending the night, or there the campsites, or are you just off the trail?
They did have a few little campsites. So they have each place that's kind of a marker that they have set up that you reach a certain altitude, and they have a marker to say you're at the Baranga point or wherever on the mountain. And usually groups will cluster around those different points. So they have kind of basic outhouses that you can go to. So it's not just going behind a bush, because once you get further up the mountain, there's no bushes to go behind. But they did have like gathered campsites. And one of the cool things is one of the last nights before we made the summit, they had everyone came out. So the guides from the different groups and all of the different climbers came out and got in a big circle, and they were singing the songs in Swahili of motivating you to climb up Kilimanjaro. And I think that was one of the coolest parts of the experience. Is just like everyone's tired, everyone's been climbing all day, you're at altitude, but there's still just the community of people who are out sharing this experience of climbing the mountain. So the camps were pretty cool. Very, very rustic, but very cool.
Oh man, that sounds so awesome. Did you feel the change in altitude? Like, did that start impacting you?
A little bit, but once you got up higher, especially on the final morning, that I'd notice it with my breathing, especially because the final morning we're climbing, you have your baklava covering your mouth, and so you can't breathe as well, but you have to keep that on to keep your breath and everything from icing up. But it made it more difficult. So you'd take a few steps with it on, like take it off, get a few good breaths in. So it does affect, but I know a lot of people, they would take medications once they started getting a little bit further up to help with altitude sickness. But thankfully, I didn't need it on that mountain. And I didn't really have any issues when I went and climbed Elbrus last summer in Russia. So we'll see. I know that altitude affects everyone differently. Some people are in super good shape and they get up and it just hits them a lot harder than others. So it's the one factor that you really can't plan to and fix. So thankfully I haven't been affected by it too much, but we'll see on future mountains.
Yeah. How did it feel at the top? So once you're at the top and you're watching the sun crest, what did it feel like?
Again, the view is amazing. We made it like perfect timing to see the sun come over the horizon. It was very cold the morning that I made it. I think we took like a 3-second video of like walking up, the arm up in the air of like made it here to the sign, like and then just like zipped everything up, like all of the layers back on. It was very cold the morning I was there, but again, it's worth it. You look around and it's pretty awe-inspiring that you're on the top of this overlooking everything. So it was a very, very cool experience. And so again, I thought I was going to do and you're like, I made it. So I was just going to do Kilimanjaro, but coming down and meeting all of the climbers who were so passionate about this is why I went and decided to do Elbrus, and hopefully I'll do the rest of the 7 summits, 2 down now. But yeah, it's very rewarding. I think you get one reward when you're at the top and you make the summit, and then the second one when you come down from the mountain and you crack your first beer and you're like, all right, climb the mountain, time to celebrate.
Now, how is the way back down? Because on the way up, you have the peak that you're focusing on. On the way back down, how was that?
For me, climbing down is substantially harder. For some reason, we seem to race down off of that mountain, and we did it. I mean, you spend days climbing the mountain, and we got down in a couple of hours of just like running down the mountain. I thought it was way worse. My knees got all swollen. I was so sore. I think I was much more sore on the down than going up, because up you're taking your time, you're slowly adjusting. On the down, we were just flying, trying to get off the mountain, and it was highly unpleasant for me. I'd rather any other way off of the mountain, but yeah.
Did you come down a different route?
We came down a much more direct route.
Yeah. I mean, it was the same with Mount Fuji. So it was like,
yep.
On my way up, this little boy, he's not even a teenager. Like because I went with a group, he started popping up. So we started racing up. Of course, I'm stopping to get the stamp. So every time I stop to get the stamp, he's catching up. I'm like, ugh. So we're racing up. We get to the top, and it was a 1-day thing. So we came back down right away. So I get to the top, and I had brought layers. So I'm ready to stay at the top for a little while and wait for my friend to catch up and get to the top. The little boy's father gets to the top. The little boy did not have any layers, and his lips are starting to turn blue. And the dad comes to me. He's like, hey, I have to wait for my teenage son. Do you mind taking him back down? Because, it's too cold. Mm-hmm. And I looked at the boy and I'm like, sure, I'll take him back down. So on the way down, he is hauling, and I'm like, no. No hurry to get back down.
Nope, not today.
Not today. No, especially Mount Fuji, because it's such loose it's so loose going back down. Was that like that for Mount Kilimanjaro? At least it stays good.
No, for a good part of it. I mean, there's a good section of the mountain that's the very
That's the same
similar
thing.
rocky, loose gravel that you're just kind of sliding on your way down. You're like, there's no rush. There's no prize at the end. We made the prize. We made it to the summit. What are we doing? Calm down.
Well, thank God for that beer, right?
Exactly. It's worth it. That's the second rush. You make it to the bottom. You're like, okay, now we can celebrate.
Yeah. I gotta say, that's what I love about hiking in Switzerland and in Austria is that they have lifts.
Very true. Yeah, you get the good climb and the sense of reward at the top for climbing, and you don't have to deal with the return down the mountain.
Exactly. I don't need to prove myself on the way down. Like I made it up. All right. Oh, that's great. All right. So let's switch over and let's find out a little bit more about you through the first time lightning round. You're ready to play?
Yes.
All right. So if it's something you've done before, it's up. If it's something that you've never done, not interested, left. And if something you've never done, would like to do, it's right. Okay. So
here we go.
Here we go. Write a book.
Right. I haven't done it, but I would be very interested someday when I have enough interesting things and I've made enough dumb mistakes to have something funny for people to read.
All right. I would read it. Perfect. Okay. Barrel racing. So on a horse.
Ooh, no, I haven't done it. I like horseback riding, but that sounds a little too technical for me. And I kind of doubt that I'm actually going to get to it. So I'll do left on that.
You're left on that. Okay. I wanted to see where your sense of adventure went when it comes to something like that. All right. Go to a Mardi Gras parade.
Ooh, yes. So I actually, when I was in Virginia Beach, I was stationed there and I was able to take like a day off of work, take a day of leave. I caught a red-eye flight into New Orleans. I met up with a friend of mine. We caught up there and spent the entire day. We went to the parades. We got the donuts. We did everything New Orleans and then flew back that night at like midnight. And one day, a terrible idea. I would never do that again, but I was like 22, 23. So it wasn't terrible. I was able to drink a lot of coffee and go back to work the next day, but that was a poor planning.
That is such a, I don't know. That is such a great prime example of maximizing whatever little amount of time that she has to squeeze everything that she can. I mean, I don't know how many times I went to see you and there's a 3-day, 4-day weekend or simple weekend and she's going to all these places and all these, I'm like, how are you fitting all this in this short amount of time? So that is.
I try and plan, and now is kind of the exception with COVID, but I try and plan out every single weekend. I'm like, all right, I can catch up on like all of my work things. I can catch up on all my other responsibilities in the week, leave immediately after work on Friday, go climbing, go to whatever other country, do anything, especially on the weekends. But yes.
Yeah. And then there's no pause in the schedule. And by the way, she was working on her master's degree at the same time too. So
yes, you don't need to sleep. You'll do that later.
Yeah, she's a person undertrained, getting everything done that needs to be done. And I have to say, I do not operate at that level of efficiency. So that is a perfect example of you, that trip to Washington, Mardi Gras to New Orleans. Love it. Okay, 10 poetry reading.
No, I haven't done that, but I would. So yeah.
All right. Drive a Dodge Viper.
I haven't done it, but I 100% would. I did Ferrari. So they had a racetrack in Virginia. So again, when I was in Virginia, they had a Richmond International Racetrack. You could come up and you could drive a Ferrari. And so you basically get to go up and just floor it. You have someone in the seat beside you and they're like, brake, brake, brake. You're like, not today. It's a rental.
We're all gonna die.
Yeah, it was on my bucket list, and while I'm here, I'd like to rent a Porsche and go out and do that on the Autobahn. I think that would be very
Yeah.
exciting.
You get it done. It was also on my list to do the Porsche on the Autobahn. I did not get around to doing it, but I did the first of this year go to the track here, and I got to ride the Ferrari as well. And I will go back when it reopens up and go do a Lamborghini for sure.
Yes.
I'm all about, I want to go through all the fast cars.
Yeah, fast cars and motorcycles. I used to be really big on motorcycles. I don't have one here because of the Autobahn, and I'm concerned of my level to scale back and adhere to some sort of reasonable speed limit when there is none posted. But I think doing one of those racetrack courses that you rent one of their speed bikes and you can go out on the speed track and do that. And I think that would be very exciting.
Yeah, learn how to lean and put your knee down.
Yeah, go around the corner, peg it.
Yeah,
around the corner. It's perfect.
You're such a younger version of me. I had a motorcycle when I was on Okinawa, and and I, because of the very reason what you described, I definitely did not have the maturity to control my speed, and I know that I was eventually going to kill myself because of that. I think I would be better now, but I'm not entirely sure. So.
Yeah, I actually almost failed my first motorcycle test because of that. I pegged it. I leaned it really far down. It was my motorcycle, so I was comfortable on it. I went around the corner and scraped it, and they're like, that is considered reckless driving. You will fail your test if you do that again. I was like, all right, sorry, I didn't realize I wasn't supposed to be doing that. They're like, well, you should take one of these, the speed drive courses, like go down to a course and a track and learn how to do this safely.
Yeah. I have to tell me when you do that. Okay. Do needlework. Let's bring you into something a little more chill.
Oh, yes, I actually did that when I was younger. I learned how to knit, crochet, do needlework, all of the very basic house skills.
Like how you said that. Perfect. Okay. Ride in an airboat.
In a what?
Airboat.
What are
So the airboat, like the boat, but it's on a cushion of air, so you're floating above kind of the water.
Oh, where you get drugged behind something?
No, you're in the boat. So have you ever been to Hong Kong, and from Hong Kong to Macau? That's an airboat. They put you on airboats.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I've taken the trip from Hong Kong to Macau several times. I didn't realize it was called an airboat. Yeah. I guess I have done that because I went there for bungee jumping.
Perfect. You went to Macau to bungee jump.
They have the world's highest bungee jump in Macau. So I went over there, and then I went back. One of my friends is a big gambler, so she went there and won a lot of money in Macau. But yes, they have the world's highest bungee jump. It's very exciting. It looks like the Seattle Space Needle, and you go up to the top and you jump off.
I did not know that, because that's what I should have done when I went to Macau. It's also the smokiest casinos you can ever find yourself in, I would say.
Yeah, I didn't last long in the casinos.
Yeah. They don't have a lot, because they don't have I did not see a lot of common like games that you used to like in American casinos. I was like, I can play any of these games. They look foreign. Shocker, we're in China. All right. Go swing dancing.
Ooh, yes, I've done that. Lots of time. Right. I lived in Ohio in college for undergrad, and there was lots of swing dancing and square dancing.
Oh, awesome. All right. Participate in the cleanup of a lake, beach, river, and
trash cleanup on beaches.
All right. Go on an archaeology tour.
Oh, I think that was a field trip way back in the day. Yes, we learned about trilobites and all sorts of fossils, and yes, but it was with school. It wasn't on my own. It's not a hobby that I frequently participate in, but I have done it.
All right. Awesome. Okay, next question is today's first time story prompt. And the prompt is first time donating blood.
So most of the time in the States, the Red Cross doesn't want my blood because of the places that I travel and how frequently I'm on the road. And they ask, when was the last time you went here? And I'm usually ineligible to do it. However, I went to Darwin, for 6 months with the Marine Rotational Forces in Darwin and paired up with the Australian Red Cross. And I don't know if their standards were different or if we had just all been in safe enough countries for long enough. But we set up an entire thing where a bunch of the Marines were all interested in donating blood. So we all got to go to the Australian Red Cross and frequently donate blood. So it was a really cool project where we were able to get a little involved in the community, and they actually accepted our blood.
Oh, that's really great. Yeah, I definitely have encountered the former what you discussed. But the first time I went was on Okinawa, and I was a platoon commander. And so I encouraged my entire platoon, and I did the whole, if you go donate blood with me in the morning, you get the rest of the day off. So a good bunch of the platoon showed up and of course I'm leading from the front. It was my first time. I was a little nervous about it, but I was going to get it done. And so I'm in the chair and pumping the thing, and just, my blood starts flowing, and then it stopped. And I'm like, squeezing, get the blood out. No more blood. And so the nurse comes over and she's like, I think you have a collapsed vein. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? She's like, well, there's not going to be any more blood. And she's like, and I'm sorry, but because the bag was almost full, but she's like, because it's not full, we have to throw it away. I was just like, I felt like such a failure. So all my Marines are like, oh man, you can't even fill up a bag of blood. And I'm like, come on. So it was not a good.
So the moral of the story is you had to go back to work because you didn't really donate blood that day.
You know how it works. I was going back to work anyways.
Yes.
It took me a really long time to live that down with the Marines. So whenever I would say something, it'd have to come back. Well, at least we can fill up the blood of that, a bag of blood. Son of a. So that's how good intentions backfire.
Yeah.
All right. So the final question is, how are you making the best of everything that's happening with the pandemic?
So obviously I do a lot of travel, and I try and maximize every weekend and day off to go explore anything possible. So it has been quite an adjustment. We're currently restricted just to the local Stuttgart area, and it's finally been lifted that we're allowed to go outside of a 50-mile bubble right now, which is going to be very exciting for this next weekend, that maybe we can go hikes and trails. But to make the best of it, I think it's good there's opportunity and there's finally time to slow down a little bit. I've learned more German since I'm stationed here in Germany in the last few weeks than I have the last 2.5 years living over here. And there's also a lot of the free courses that are being offered online from a lot of really good schools like Georgetown, Harvard, Yale. They have a lot of free courses that are being offered online. So I'm currently taking quantum mechanics from Georgetown University. Again, it's a free course. It's something I didn't study in my undergrad or master's degree, so I thought it would be an interesting thing to learn about, a new course topic. But I think it's a really cool opportunity just to expand outside of things that you normally get to do and you normally take the time to. And from home, you can use, a free course offering to learn a little bit more, especially if they're going for a specific goal, it's great. But like me, I'm just taking it to learn more about a new topic that I don't know much about.
Yeah.
So
there's less pressure. There's no grading. There's no tests.
I know.
Yeah.
There's no stress. You don't have to be competitive on the message boards or in class, brown nosing and raising your hand. It's just learning about new topics. So it's good. It's an adjustment, but there's always things, the silver lining in these. So.
Oh, that's really great. You're making the absolute best of it. And you're lucky that you are in Europe, because Americans will not be making their way there, I don't think, anytime soon. So there goes some of the trips I was planning on having.
It is unfortunate. I know. I hope that they just start, hopefully it looks like in the next month or so that some borders may be relaxing here, but I do think it's going to be quite a while. It'll be interesting to see what post-COVID life looks like all around the world.
Yeah. When are you due to come back to the States?
I'm going to be at the end of my reserve orders over here in the end of September. So now that I have this time here, I'm figuring out what I'm going to be doing next. So
Well,
I'm not sure where I'll be in a few months. We'll see.
all right, but it's good that you have the time to plan.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. This has been a complete blast.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it too. And I look forward to continue watching these.
Yay. Thank you.